Back there. There's one or two good ones. Yeah, very good. That's coordination, or lack of it, as the case may be. But as always with these, you got to, if you keep practicing, yeah. You got to. The important thing is, why would you need to practice something like that? No, it's just meant to be a sort of an indication of how coordination works and how we think we are coordinated, but in fact, quite a lot of the time we're not. So, yeah, okay, so good. So what I want to do is to look at one simple word. We looked at posture coordination, all that sort of thing, and condense the technique into one word, and that's the word that Alexander himself, use. How we use ourselves, what we do in the normal process of living. Now, if you go to other classes, you're told to do this and do that, move this way, move that way, and that's great if it works for you. The technique does the exact opposite. It says stop what you're doing and think about how you're doing simple things. Sitting in a chair, moving from sitting to standing, moving from standing to sitting, walking, breathing, talking. So very simple things that we all take for granted and that no one really thinks about anymore because they're so habitual. So let's have a look at one. Paying attention to where you're sitting. Now, I can see a whole variety of sitting positions here. One or two quite interesting. No, it depends how you sit. When you're sitting in a chair, the first thing you do with the chair is put the backside down and to flop on the back, because that's the seat, that's where the butt goes, that's the back, that's where the back goes. If you do that, you tend to end up sitting on the gluteus muscles, on the soft parts of the butt. It's okay, but it doesn't support the spine when you're sitting. So what I would ask is, if you are sitting like that, or perhaps just try it anyway, is just so let's assume this is Derek before Alexander lessons. The standard stuff. You sit there and that's great. And then you think Alexander teacher come along and said, now move off your glutes and onto your sit bones. The sit bones are the bottom of the pelvis, the ischial tuberosities. You don't have to. Essentially, well, don't have to do this in public, but if you can feel when you sit down at home in private, just feel you're sitting on the bones of your pelvis, not on your glutes. Now, when you do that, you're supporting the spine. You think, oh, that's pretty straightforward. It is. And you think, oh, I'll do that. 5 minutes later, back to normal. Because it's a habit. It's a very strong habit you've learned. And habits are good. We're not decrying habits here. Imagine you had to learn to drive a car every time you wanted to get in a car. Or how to use a knife and fork every time you had to do it. Often, hopefully. But those are the habits we need to live our ordinary lives, or extraordinary lives. Yeah, so how do you break down what is good and what is bad? Well, you can't, really. You have to look at what you're doing in each one and then decide what is best. So what I'd like you to think about is when you're sitting in a chair, get on your sit bones. It's called the on-off principle. Get off the back of the chair, get on your sit bones. And for most people, that will be very uncomfortable because you're so used to doing this that suddenly having your back being supported and nothing else, it can feel quite uncomfortable. Now the technique, I'm afraid, will arouse that. You'll feel a lot of discomfort if you're challenging your habits. And that is what you'll be doing. So just give a few minutes to think. I suppose I'd like you to try and sit on your sit bones for a while, just for a while, and then perhaps 10 minutes, or even less perhaps, you suddenly realise that, oh, I'm back on my glutes again. Now, this will involve, it doesn't involve position. We're not sort of thinking, that's almost as bad as that. What, bad? It's almost as unnecessary as that. Because here you're putting yourself up and you're pushing yourself around, you're shoving yourself up and stretching yourself, doing all sorts of things to the body which are not necessary for what you're doing. Sitting is a very simple exercise, but simple is not always easy, unfortunately. So just to give a bit of practice, just to sit forward on your sit bones if you can, if you want to. If it's uncomfortable, don't. I would suggest also that the feet go flat on the floor if you can. Most chairs are made for males, but no, this seems all right. Because it's not often you see people's feet hanging in the air because they're sitting straight. Because the chairs are designed for the average person. But that looks all right. Okay. Any discomfort in that? Sorry? Well, if you sit on the sit bones, I should point out I'm a little bit deaf. So if you have a question and I look at you vaguely, you may have to repeat the question. So yeah, if you just practice being on your sit bones, that will be a good enough start. If you go away after 2 hours of this thinking I can do that and practice that, that will be a good start. Because in that way you're supporting your spine as against collapsing your spine down. Because dowager hump, we call it dowager hump, is people that have their necks been shoved back, the backbones come up, it looks horrible. Some people can't help it, it's not a fault, but you can prevent an awful lot of that by paying attention to what you're doing in simple things like sitting. So, on-off principle, get off the back of the chair, get on the sit bones, and preferably put the feet flat on the floor, though that's difficult too because I worked with a group of people once and they were office workers, and they twisted their legs in all sorts of weird positions. And they said, oh, that's how I sit when I'm typing. Typing, how about that? This is how I sit when I'm on the keyboard. But they twisted themselves round, and I said, well, let go of that. Let's try not to do that. They couldn't do it. They felt uncomfortable and odd in not having their legs twisted round when they sat. That's a sort of habit that is not a good thing, because you're only introducing tension all the time. And the idea of the technique is to reduce tension, to use yourself to the point where you can not do habits. Now, non-doing is an Alexander thing. You say to a person, oh, well, it's about non-doing, and you get strange looks. Non-doing? What do you mean by that? And the idea is to not do the habits. By all means, do something. Yes, you have to, because you're living, breathing, things are happening all the time. But non-doing means not doing the habits that interfere with that. So, okay, let's talk about moving to stand. Now, this is quite an interesting one because could any willing volunteers? I mean, it's an awful lot to ask of people, but okay. Well, can I ask you to just take a seat here? Now, an Alexander teacher will put their hands on you and do all sorts of wonderful things, and they're great. But I think for 2 hours, it's more important that you get the idea of what you're doing with yourself. Okay? So I'll ask you to look ahead, if you would. And then I'll go, and, off the back of the chair. Thank you very much. That's great. Now, I'm going to ask you to stand in a moment when you're ready. But I'm making an indication to the group behind you, okay? I want them to look at something, okay? See if it happens. But I don't want to tell you. That sounds a bit... Sorry about it. I'll tell you what I'm doing afterwards. It won't be a secret. Let's see what happens. Okay. I'll ask you to stand when you're ready. Did anyone notice that? It's very small, but it's there. Okay. it's good. It showed, I think it's because you've got long hair. We're looking at something that happened in the back of your neck. And what was that? Yeah, sure. Okay. Right, take a seat again, please. So what's your name? Adele. So, you there. Adele. So, okay, thanks, Adele. So we're looking at how you move to stand when you're ready. See, that's an interesting one because obviously Adele is thinking, now obviously I'm doing something with my neck, so I won't. And that's a natural reaction and a good one too, because it means you're having a go at doing change, which is good.
Was that good or bad then?
It was different.
Oh, can we have another volunteer?
Well, I'll see if I can get it right, or I don't know if I can get it right or not, but the idea is what I was looking at was what were you doing with your neck when you came up. I'll give you an example of an exaggerated example, very exaggerated, of what I thought I saw. Went forward, head back, push up. You know, that's pretty standard. And if you're a bloke, it's a bit different. Is head back, forward, push up. That's what blokes do, so it's different. So the idea is, can I not do that? Can I just sit on my sit bones, then move forward to stand up without shoving the head back? Because you're pushing the spine down when that happens. So you're going up and you're telling the body to push down. So there's that conflict as you're moving all the time. So can I let go of that habit of going forward? It's the eyes. Because we want to see where we're going. I'm going up, so I'm going that way. And most people, this is like a flying start. It's off we go. And it really shouldn't be. It's a question of you're sitting, and then you're standing, and you're not throwing your head back all over the place. I don't think. Was I? only it didn't feel like I was, but that's another one to try. And I'd like you to try that if you've got room in front of you, just to move to stand and see if you notice yourself with the head moving back. Yeah, and notice what you do to try and prevent that as well. Notice that that balancing stuff and determined, but it's lovely. Okay. Great. Great. That's good. You can overcome the habit here, now. I suspect that as soon as you go home or do something, it'll be back again. The habit of doing it, of throwing your head back, is much stronger than the habit of not doing that. But if you keep doing it, and that's the whole point about the technique, it's not a magic bullet. You've got to work at it all the time. And as one of my teachers said, it's a bit difficult because life happens while you're doing the technique. So you've got to get on with living, and sometimes you haven't got the time to think about these things. But most people tend not to see it like that. They tend to think, well, it's all right. What's wrong with that? And as your head's going back, yeah, okay. And that's fine. If people think like that, then there's not much you can do about it. But there's a phrase in the technique that says, when the time is right, the right thing will do itself. So if you keep practicing simple things like sitting in the chair, sit bones, moving forward and thinking about the head going up, that will change. That will change. Okay, well, there's a few points, just a little bit of theory. I'm not sure it's that, but the technique talks about orders, which comes in various directions or orders. It says, let the neck be free. So, yeah, that's what people do. That's just let the neck be free. The first thing you do is not free it up. You use it. You do it all over the place. So that's natural again. That's a normal reaction. But the idea is to let the neck be free. So just, can you think about, and that normally involves the jaw here as well. So, but if you think about just letting the neck release, that's difficult. Way of thinking about it is to actually put, this is what a teacher would do. Put your hand very lightly, very lightly, very lightly. A teacher once said to me, he said, if you put the hand on someone, it's got to be very soft. And he put a 10-cent coin on my hand and said, that's how light it needs to be. It's not about grabbing or pushing or shoving or putting your hands on. It's about light contact, very light. And the other also said, when you put your hands on, keep it there, but think about taking it off, bringing it off, and lighten, lighten, lighten. It's not about pushing someone to do something. It's about assisting them doing it themselves. And you can only tell that if you have a very light touch, very light. So, let the neck be free to allow the head to come forward and up. Now, most people think forward and up is that. I had an argument with a physiotherapist about this. She got out of a chair and the head was... she said, you have to put your head forward. I said, your head's going back. No, it's not. Fine. Yeah, so the idea is, can you think about the neck being free to allow the head to come forward and up? In most cases, that will feel as though you're going backwards or doing something different with the head. But it's not pulling your head down or shoving your head back when you're speaking. Like you look at most, I don't know, market traders, what have you. They're yelling and shouting, and the head being thrown back is absolutely essential to them. So, and it's resting, more or less resting just on that crook, but lightly, very lightly, and just thinking, can I let the neck be free to allow the head to come forward and up, to rest gently on the chin. Now that, for some people that's really interesting. Other people it's, what? Well, what's that then? It doesn't make any effect, but keep trying it. That's the whole point. It works if you apply it. Okay, so let the neck be free, allowing the head to come forward and up, back to lengthen. Now that's a hard one. People think that lengthening means pulling yourself up. No, quite the opposite. It's letting yourself not go down. It's a bit different. You can say, if you slump, collapse, that's fine. I mean, a lot of people sit like that and go through life merrily without any great problems. But if you decide to think about the neck being free to allow the head to come forward and up, you can actually get on and increase your height a little bit. Well, you're not increasing your height. You're not depressing your height down because you're allowing your neck, the back, to be free. Notice these words, allowing and let. It's not about making things happen. It's about you giving yourself directions to order yourself to do these things. Yeah, okay. And the fourth one, which is very important for me, is knees soften to go forward and away. Now, that's very interesting. I'd really like to try walk. Walking has been a feature of my life for the last, as I say, because I've got a damaged ankle. I'd like to try, first of all, with a volunteer, if that's all right, if there is one. If not, then I'll get Joseph. I just wanted someone to walk up and down. That's all. Just walk. Okay, lovely. Thank you. Now, I'll be polite this time. As I wasn't with Adele, I'll ask what your name is. Colleen. Okay, Colleen. So if you'd like to stand over there, and I'm going to ask you to walk towards me. And I just want you to observe what happens in the moment, the very moment that people start walking, the minutiae, if you like, of walking. Now, and notice straight away you're on one leg straight away. Yeah. Okay. Cheating. Okay. So I'm going to ask Colleen. So look what happens when I ask Colleen, when Colleen starts to walk. Okay. Yeah, there. Did you see that? Okay. Let's try again. Come back again. Okay. And I can see you're getting ready to go again. Okay. And when you're ready. You cheat. Let's try that again. Can I try after you do it? Okay, so go. Okay, that's great. Okay, Connie, thank you very much. What I was looking at was get a person to walk. I exaggerate again, Connie. This wasn't. But the general principle is the same. You get people to start walking. The first thing you do is transfer weight. So to go forward, the first thing people do is go sideways, which is unnecessary. It doesn't have to be like that. So how can you move forward without transferring the weight, which is what people are doing? So apply the principles. Can I think about the neck being free, head coming forward and up, back lengthening, shoulders to widen, and knees soften to go forward and away. Just the knees taking you. Not your weight transfer, it's the knees doing the work. And it's a question of, can you soften the knees? Now, do you ever think about what happens in your knees? I didn't before I did technique. What happens, folding... Sorry, I'm out of shot. One likes to be in shot. Okay, so the idea is, can I think about bringing my attention to my directions, let the neck be free, and the head to come forward and up. It's a thinking thing, and you have to work it out yourself. And soften the knee to go forward and away, to walk forward, rather than that transfer of weight and hurling yourself forward. So can I get you to try that? I mean, I won't be able to see everybody, but I'd like you to try experience it yourself. The idea of thinking about let the neck be free, allow the head to come forward up, and to release. So if I see anybody like that, I shall be giving them the evil eye. No, it's the idea of, can you let go to allow the body to release? And sometimes letting go feels like slump. You think, oh, I'm slumping. No, you're not. You're not doing tension. There's a difference. Okay, so can you think about your attention to the neck being free, head coming forward and up, back lengthening, shoulders widening, knees soften. Just can you soften the knee without transferring the weight? It's difficult, isn't it? If you're used to transferring it, it's very difficult. But good. Okay. No, those that are walking, that's great. If you carry on softening the knees, keep the knees soft. Let the knees do the work. Let the knees take you forward. You don't have to push your body anywhere. The knees will take you forward. And keep the knees soft. Does that make sense to anybody? Is that different for anybody? Right. Okay, good. But the important thing is to keep yourself free as much as possible. So the idea is to not sort of, okay, knees free, right? Okay. There's a school of thought in the Alexander tech community. There are teachers. I've worked with a few. They're great teachers and all that, but they are so obsessed with the technique. It is an obsession with them. And they're called, behind their backs, Alexandroids. Yeah, because that's what they look. Yeah. Yeah. Hello. So the idea is you've got to be yourself, but you've got to be a free yourself. You've got to be freer than you possibly, be freer than you're used to. Okay. Now, the other one I want to look at is breathing. I want to practice a bit more of those later on, but breathing. Now, most people think breathing is a very straightforward process, in and out, and that's true. But breathing in, most of the time we tend to gasp. And this is why Alexander had problems. This is how he began the technique. He was an actor and found he was gasping on stage for breath, and his lines were getting all wrong. And he was... Anyway, he went to various experts. One of whom told him to root yourself to the floor, stick yourself to the floor, which is complete antithesis of what he should be doing. Well, Alexander believed that anyway. And anyway, he went, saw doctors, what have you, and nothing worked. So he worked on himself. And this is the key point, I think, with all the group here, is that he didn't have a teacher. He worked this out himself. Now, you can work it out yourself if you give it the time. And it's very simple if you get the basics right. Think about the directions and how you apply it to simple things like sitting, moving to stand, moving to sit. We didn't do that one, did we? We'll try that one in a moment. But moving to sit. And how do you do that without standard sitting procedure? Certainly for a lot of males, I've noticed, is collapsivo. That's it. That's standard sitting procedure. If your bottom is on the seat and your back is in the back of the chair, you've succeeded. You're sitting, and that's fair enough. But it's not. It's an extra effort. Anything that requires extra effort should be thought about. Simple as that, really. Can you not do the extra effort? Okay, so breathing. Alexander had problems. He worked on himself. It's said that he worked himself for 8 years. Can you imagine doing that? Applying that? Obsessed as well, I suppose. I don't know. But that sort of obsession gets things done, or it gets you ill, basically. And it got things done in Alexander's case. And he worked out that his breathing was all wrong, that he tended to gasp when he was breathing. He listened to the news reporters, the news reports at night time. You listen to their breathing. Some of them have got it great, and some of them could do some work. You sit there and today's news, you hear that gasping all the time. All that does is fill the top part of the lungs. That's fine. It's got air in the lungs, the body's working, that's okay. If you start thinking about a different form of breathing into the width of the lungs, breathing in and out, it's a very different form of breathing and much fuller. So think about the breathing in terms of width of the lungs rather than filling that top part. So it's very difficult to demonstrate this, except for, take a deep breath. But take a deep breath and use the width of the lungs. But perhaps put your hands on the side, but keep your shoulders released as well, because that's no good. It's a case of, can I let the shoulders go and get some indication of what is happening when I breathe in? Are my hands sideways? Are my hands sideways? Just a little bit. It's only a little bit. Perhaps it might be easier if you stood up, actually. I find it easier to breathe from standing up. But can you, even if it's only one hand, maybe just that's less tension even just in one hand. And breathing in through the width of the lungs. In other words, try and imagine, it's a visualization which is not particularly good, but nonetheless, try and imagine a hole in your back. Breathing in through the hole in your back down here. Now you're not, obviously, but and breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth. And doing it easily. The point about this is it's so easy. Should look so easy. I'm looking at people just breathing. I can't tell whether you are or not because it looks so easy the way you're doing it. Okay. Yes. Yep. You've got the floating ribs down here. You've got a rib cage, and then floating ribs, which are designed to move out with breathing. They really get exercised for a lot of people. Alexander lost his voice on stage. Dear me. I had a bit of a sore throat as well. So excuse me while I take a tablet, a sweet. Yeah, just think about the breathing. Can I breathe in through the width of my lungs rather than the length? Instead of, and that sort of, you've got breathing in through the width. And it means thinking about it, that's all. And I don't know whether you're doing it or not because only you will know. But it's a question of, can I breathe in and breathe out easily without, that's the other thing that people do. You know, the whole rib cage moves up and the upper torso moves. It's not necessary, it doesn't need to happen. So this does that, I'm afraid, sorry. Yeah, so we've done sitting, bit of walking, bit of breathing. Now I'd like you to have a minute to think about all of those and practice quietly to yourself, just for a few minutes, because it only works if you're doing it. I could sit here and talk till I'm blue in the face. If you're not applying the principles, it's not worth the effort for you. So just think about neck being free to allow the head to come forward and up, back to lengthen, shoulders to widen, knees softening. Even when you're sitting down, knees soften to go forward and away. So it's about constantly bringing your attention to yourself. Great thing about the technique is it applauds selfishness. It says it only works if you're doing it yourself. And it doesn't have to be anybody else. You're not better than anybody. You're not saying, I'm more important than others, or others are more important than me. You're saying, I'm as important as anybody else, so I'll think about what I'm doing. So selfishness within the Alexander community is not a bad thing. Well, I think in life in general, really. But yeah. Okay, so neck being free, and the head to come forward and up, back to lengthen, shoulders to widen. I found when I first started, I'll still do it now, obviously, it seems that's where you're going. That's where you're going. And the idea of raising the hand without involving the shoulder too much. You've got to use the shoulder, obviously. The body has to be used, but not, I don't have to slam my shoulder into gear. So, okay. Alexander said worked for 8 years on himself, and he did simple things. He records were reaching for a cup in a cupboard, and he said he spent time doing that. You think, what? It's a cup, for heaven's sake. But still, instead of reaching up like that, let's assume the cup was here. Instead of throwing the arm out, he would raise the arm, soften the shoulder, reach for the cup. So the whole arm was as relaxed as it could be to get what he wanted. It wasn't an effort to do things, and that's what we're trying to reduce, the effort. There's those three. If you look at muscular use, you have spasm, which is excessive and unnatural muscular use. You have relaxation, which is minimal use, and sometimes, too much. In between, you have tone. The muscles doing what they have to do what you want them what you want to do. So it's not about making them do anything. It's about releasing all that stuff to enable you, to free you up to do the real stuff. Okay. Any questions? Okay. Let's assume that we all stand, obviously, but most people, they're all over the place. There's very getting people to stand up and to think about lengthening through the spine as they stand is difficult because most people are used to collapse. Can I not collapse? Yes, if you apply just thinking about coming up. Not pulling yourself up, think about not doing down. So if you give that away, your body will respond in time. So think about, as one American teacher said, think about owning your space. Owning your space. So she would stand there, she was very good. And she stood there and she looked as though that was it. That was, no one was going to move her except if she wanted to be moved. She looked absolutely solid but available. Another occasion I saw an Alexander teacher coming off an aeroplane coming to Wynyard. And she was a large lady. And I thought, oh, okay, large lady, fair enough. She came down the steps. She looked as though she was floating down. It was on an escalator. It's amazing. Then she had a long dress on. And then I was watching her walk across the tarmac. And it was so she was on wheels. It was amazing. There was nothing. She was just floating along. And she saw me looking at her when I got there. She says, you think because I'm big that I should be making a noise or making a fuss, don't you? I said, it doesn't have to be. Size is not an issue. So no matter how big or small you are, you can still change the way you're doing things. So, standing. Can we sit? Can you stand rather and not do down? Think about the directions. This is all the time, 24 hours a day. Don't forget, this is all the time. And then, can I decide to sit? There's a chair. Move to the chair. What do I need to do to the chair? I need to fold to sit, certainly. But do I need to collapse? No, I need to keep the head and neck free. So I can move down, let the legs release, and sit. Without all the extra stuff. Preferably without a slidey seat too, which is back in the back of the chair there. So, can I get up? Yes. Can I sit? Yes. But I'm better at doing it than possibly only because I've been doing it for longer. I'm not an expert at this. I'm an expert in how I apply it to me. And that's the expertise you're looking for. Your own expertise in applying those principles to you. It's not about some book that tells you this is what you should do. The basics are there and you can do them. Sitting, moving to stand, moving to sit, walking, breathing. Yeah. Yeah, it's more about release rather than relax. Because a lot of those things you mentioned are habitual reactions to doing things. If you're locking your knees, a common thing, Alexander did it too on stage, it's a question of saying, can I let the knees release? And you can if you keep telling them to do it. But it means the whole set. Think about the neck being free to allow the head to come forward and up, the back to lengthen, shoulders to widen, knees to soften. And you don't have to put the forward. If you're standing still, you forget the forward and away. But can you eventually, and standing should be a straightforward exercise. The technique uses a system. You might want to try this actually, an exercise. It's called monkey, which I think is very derogatory toward monkeys, but there we are. Where you stand by the chair, hand on the back of the chair, and then knees forward. Now that looks, and then you can really think about the back releasing. You're not holding onto the chair, you're just resting your hands there. Your feet are on the floor, you're connected with the floor, and you think about releasing the back. And I know my back's releasing because I can hear it. Crack, 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 crack. So this position is called monkey, and it looks really uncomfortable, doesn't it? I can assure you, if you get into the habit of doing it, it's really the most comfortable position to be in. To stand like that. But of course you can't go around standing like that. Hi. No, that's ridiculous. So, and also it's not good for permanent, but it will give you a chance to let go of the back. Have a try. Have a try of that. See if that works for you. Everybody's watching everybody else get up. Okay. So the idea is to think, don't grip the chair. The idea of the hands just rest. They just rest on the chair. You're thinking about the directions, letting your neck be free, and the head to come forward and up, back to lengthen, shoulders to widen. And you're thinking about the knees softening to bring you down. Just think about those knees softening just to allow you to sit in this sort of monkey position. This is, I suppose, what people think monkeys do. So, it's about releasing the knees, so you're bending down to the chair, but you're still firmly footed, you're grounded in the floor, and it's really quite difficult to do, but think about the knees softening a bit more. So about, can you fold? Fold a bit, just fold a bit. It sounds a bit simian, that's what it is, I suppose. It's just a bit simian, but the idea is to can you let the weight, crack, 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 crack. Okay. You can soften the hands, just release the hands, and can I get you to put the head up? Just the head, that's it. That's it. So there should be some sort of alignment down the spine, through the back. Now that's monkey. Now that's supposed to be quite an advanced Alexander position, which probably indicates just how basic the technique is. If you bend your knees and hold on to a chair, that's really advanced. But it's a bit more than bending your knees. It's about releasing your back, about making sure you've got firm contact on the floor, releasing the knees so they go forward and away, and not putting your head down or putting your head back. It's about letting that alignment of the head, neck, back arrangement. So can I just wander around, just have a quick glance? Can you try a bit more knees forward, just as an experiment? Yeah. And release the hands, soften the hand, keep your hands on the chair, and yeah. That's it. And soften the shoulders. Neck back. Yeah, good. Is that uncomfortable for some people? Yeah. Great. Can I get you to move forward? Just so it's a bit more. We're not used to being in this monkey position. It's very odd, but if you can get used to it, it really is a comfortable position. But it does take a bit of work. Great. Yep. Next.
Sorry.
It's all right. The technique is like watching paint dry. It really is. Watching other people do the technique, it's straight. Okay. Okay, thank you very much. That's great. Any more questions? Does that? Oh, great. I was just asking. This one?
Is that how it's meant to feel, like relaxing?
It is, yeah, because you're letting go of the back, and the back is where most of the tension comes in most people. If you let go of that and give your hands support, I mean, it looks the most odd thing. If you put a chair in front of me, it looks fairly normal. But like that, hello.
Derek, I've got a question.
Sorry?
I've got a question.
Oh.
What you've emphasised to us that we've got to keep practicing, and there's a lot of work involved, and you've got to keep thinking about it. What's the rewards out of from all that hard work?
Good question. Well.
And also to remind you that we break in a couple of minutes for our meal.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Rewards. Deeply personal. Deeply personal. It's really up to you. You're not going to win prizes because you've done the Alexander technique. But if I'm any guide, and I was a mess as a average stupid young man, and when I started doing the technique, I felt release. I felt tremendous release. And it's, yeah, well, you haven't felt that for a long time, to suddenly experience that. I was lucky to have a lesson with a teacher, a very experienced teacher, who he started training when he was 18, and he's been doing it all his life. And he came up to me and put his hand on my neck, and it was like, it was just light touch. And I said, what have you done? He said, no, nothing, you're doing it. Just a light touch, that was all I needed, just to release a lot of the tension in my neck. Now, if you've got a partner or someone that's who you don't mind being touched by, get them to try it on you. But light touch is the key. It's not about grabbing people. It's about just laying on a gentle hand and then thinking about reducing it. What benefit you'll get from that? If you can feel better for doing something that you've got control of, then surely that's got to be worth a fortune in many ways. Because you're not reliant on experts or things or aids. It's you taking control of what you're doing. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah, sorry. I keep forgetting there's a video going on.
It was sort of adding to Joe's question, and how with this technique about having our own body awareness and being conscious of how we're doing it, that I would expect it would help in a safety point of view to prevent falls and injuries of doing things when you're straining yourself or you're using forces that you don't need to, and particularly with the balance as we're getting older, and falls are one of the worst causes of injuries.
Yeah, absolutely. Balance is a core diagnostic feature of mental health. You know, that's a test for Alzheimer's, so where if you can't balance, then there's some concerns. And naturally enough, I spend an awful lot of my time practicing my balance. I think we should all do that. But if you can stay on one foot and not fall over, then you're okay. I can't stand on my left foot. That's the one that's damaged. I have to keep encouraging it. But I can still balance. So stability, balance, and the Alexanders help that. So by doing things like thinking about the directions, being aware of my sitting, the way I stand, the way I walk, that helps. Perhaps indirectly, but it helps. Stability and, balance. And it's important, isn't it? Because you're right. As we get older, and we all do, things get a little bit more difficult. It's not as easy. Now, if I deal with a group of young people, I would prefer to deal with people like you. Young people are immortal. Nothing can go wrong with them, and everything they do is right. So it's very difficult to work with young people who are not geared for it, who are there because they're told to. But I've worked with young people who wanted to be there, and they were great. Very easy and adaptable. Habits had not been stabilised. They were free to work. It's great. Should I stop now? Because I can feel myself going into lecture mode here. Thank you for that. A cup of tea and refreshments are being served. Okay, any questions, any queries, any... yes, please. Yeah, holding, yeah. No, well, that's natural. That's a normal reaction when you first do it. Oh, sorry.
I
camera.
found when I was doing the monkey that after a few seconds or whatever, I was aware that there was a lot of strength happening in my legs, despite my knees being relaxed, moving forward. And I just wondered if that was okay.
Yeah, that's the first reaction. If you've not done this before, the first thing you do is hold yourself there. But if you just trust your feet to think, oh, that's me on the ground, just what is it? The Maori or the Aboriginal people who walk around in bare feet because they're in contact with the soil, and their movements are a lot better than most Europeans, I'd say. But can you let go, giving your weight to go through your feet rather than get stuck in your thighs? There will be some work there, of course, because but you're looking for tone and not tension.
Well, that's what I felt. There was a
Yeah.
tension there. So.
But keep practicing. Nothing happens overnight, I'm afraid. Well, I wish it did. But it's a question of applying the principles, applying. And that takes time. And the first thing you get is, why? Why should I do that? Well, what's the point? You know, I can go through life as I am now. Here I am at, 70, 80, and I don't appear to have much of a problem. I'm at an Alexander Technique workshop, which gives me some pause for thought. Why am I here? But for most people, they get to 70 and 80, they think, well, fair enough. And they're tolerant of dysfunction. Oh, well, that's age. Oh, sorry.
I was just wondering, I can never sit still. You know, I'm always going like this. And I notice other people, like Renee, he can just sit still.
Yeah.
So I don't know why I have to keep twitching.
That's a boy thing. No, it's a nervous thing. It's very difficult to do that. If there's no organic cause, and this is the important thing, because some movements, a friend of mine has tremor. It looks like Parkinson, but it isn't. It's just a benign tremor. And it's only in one hand. So this is one hand, you just hold a cup of coffee. So he has a cup of coffee and you look at him and there's this wobbling cup of coffee going. But he's used to it. So there are certain, if you can eliminate any organic cause, if there's no reason for it, then it's a muscular reaction. If it's a muscular reaction, you can do something about it. But it might take some time. Because if you've had that sort of reaction for a long time, it's not going to go overnight. Simple as that. Do you know if it's okay? That's a personal question. Don't worry. No, if there's no organic cause, then you really need to look at muscular use. How you're doing? Can you let go? Can you let go? Can you let go? And it's a good thing about having a condition, if you like. It's not a disease, but a condition is that you can tell if it's working when the condition improves. If you bring yourself to do these things, think, well, am I twitching less or a little bit less? Then you know you're taking more control of it. And it's just time and time and time. I wish I could say this is a magic bullet. Take this and everything will be all right. But it's not. It's hard work. This is life's lesson. We all get to a certain age where nothing is easy, and even simple stuff.
See my head, my arm still. I cannot lift it from my head because the rest for the shoulder.
Floating shoulder, yeah.
This one I can go like this,
Yeah.
but this one,
Could you?
yeah, my right arm, I can't even reach to comb my hair.
Yeah.
I can't get there because it's called frozen shoulder. Can you do
Yeah.
anything about frozen shoulder?
Well,
But this one I can go like this, but this one I can't.
yeah, okay.
I've got to head from my hair.
So you can lift it with help. Yeah. What's the medical opinion of that? Do you have a medical opinion on that? Well, it's a personal question. I don't know. My background is nursing. Pathology fascinates me. I don't know why, but it does. But have you checked that out?
Yes, I used to get injection once
or some steroid or something. Doctors do that, don't they? Yeah, all I can say is try it. But I think if there's an organic cause for a problem, my ankle's stuffed up, it's broken and so forth. No amount of Alexander work is going to improve that. It's broken, simple as that. And it can't be repaired. So you adapt and you modify, you apply the principles and try and change things. For me, that worked. I'm not saying it will work for you, but you can only try. But a doctor yeah, okay. Calm down, Derek, calm down. But if a doctor says, oh, you're all right, you're okay, don't worry about it. Well, you are worrying about it. Well, that's the whole point. You're there to see him because you're worried about it. And he's saying, don't worry about it. Hardly very therapeutic, is it? I mean, there's no help there, no assistance. So, yeah, do what you can yourself. That means I would try hands on the back of the chair, see if that works for you, if only to release the shoulder. See if you can release the shoulder. Or else have Alexander lessons. That's a good idea. But yeah, try it. Try something. Try something, because if the medical fraternity says don't worry about it, then the responsibility comes back to you. What can I do about it? The same as Alexander. Anyone? Get a new shoulder. A good idea. Good idea. Very practical.
As far as this technique goes, what?
Sorry, I'm
maybe I'm holding it too close.
okay.
Yeah, with regard to this technique, what should we or could we be mindful of when we're sitting for longer periods, say reading a book or, on the internet, that sort of thing? Because sometimes we can spend hours on there, and then forget what we're doing.
Tell me about it, yes. Indeed. Well, the criteria there is applying the principles whenever you can. So yes, you will get carried away on the internet for an hour or two, but then think, hang on, wait a minute. Think about those directions, about the neck being free. Give yourself the opportunity. It might only be once a day initially, but then maybe twice a day, 3 times a day, 4 times a day, and gradually increases over time. The more you do it, the more you apply the principles, the more the change will happen. And it will happen if you apply those principles. Simple. It sounds very blasé, doesn't it? But I know that if I apply the principles, I can change the way I'm doing it. That doesn't mean to say I apply them all the time, unfortunately. I find myself sitting at machines and I'm slumping and collapsing, but I know I am because it begins to hurt. That's the difference. If you apply yourself, say your body's okay, when it's not okay, it'll let you know very quickly. You think, oh, you tweak about a bit and you release and relax and off you go again. So apply the principles. That's why I'm trying to keep this session simple in terms of use the directions. Think about the neck being free, allowing the head to come forward and up, back to lengthen, shoulders to widen, knees soften to go forward and away when you're walking. When you're sitting, on-off principle, get off the back of the chair, get on your sit bones. Now that sounds easy to say, try it. It's difficult, very difficult if you're used to not doing that. And when you're breathing, think about, you can do all this when you're sitting down. You don't need a room or aids. You can do this while you're at the computer. But then think about, how am I breathing? And sometimes I watch TV and I see programs, all this excitement and drama. I like stupid dramas for some reason. There's all stuff going on. And I'm there. And I'm moving about and all sorts of stuff. And Janet, my partner, she's well tutored in this. So, yeah, it's a question of self-discipline and self-control. I don't know how else to say it really, but it is that simple if you can apply those principles.
just two things getting onto the person himself. Did he conduct classes? Once he developed these techniques and found that they worked for him, did he conduct public classes? I mean, we know that the Alexander technique's known all around the world. So, can you tell us a bit more about how the message was spread? Were there influential people who took it up, or anyway, a bit of that would be interesting.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Well, I think the thing to begin with is Alexander was a bit of a snob, simple as that. He loved the company of the rich and powerful. And that's not a bad thing. I mean, it certainly helped him because, Sir Stafford Cripps, for those who know British history, was a government, was he a Prime Minister? Or certainly a senior minister in the government of England at the time. He went on, Stafford Cripps and Lady Cripps went on to fund an Alexander school, support an Alexander school. And the list of actors who've used it is legendary. I mean, Madonna, Sting, there's a lot more. I can't remember half of them, but there's a heap. A lot of famous people use the technique, and that's because the appeal is there. He sort of made it that sort of classy procedure that only the not the well-off, but he charged 3 guineas a lesson pre-war, and he recommended 10 lessons. Now you could almost, you're halfway to buying a house in London at that cost, and even now Alexander teaches $100 an hour and expectation dollars. Well, you have to think about, let's do the technique, let's get a teacher, but do it yourself first. Try it yourself, because only you are the judge of you. So who is sitting back in the back of the chair now? Oh. Why is it just 2 males are doing it? Well, this gentleman here has been sitting, you've been sitting straight all the while. It's been good to watch, to notice. Okay, any other questions? He was, what else can I tell you about Alexander? I can tell you about his history if you're interested in that, but no, I won't do that because that's not what this is about. But he went to London in about 1912 and never came back. And so we've got communications from people here, cousins who wrote to him, but he never maintained interest in Tasmania after that. And he said his father was a magistrate, he was a policeman, and in those days, the best policemen were ex-convicts. So his father was his whole past was littered with a convict background, which was embarrassing for him. Nowadays, it's like Australian royalty, isn't it? You look for it. But in those days, it wasn't a good thing. So he escaped that, went to London, and had a up and down relationship in there, and went to America, established himself in America, and ferried across the America, I don't know, about 6 or 7 times on one of the big liners. Made a good deal there. He trained his brother, but no one else at the time. So his brother and himself were the only two. He had female helpers. Apparently he was very charismatic with ladies, apparently. He had female helpers who were not teachers, but had more experience than some of the teachers. But he refused to recognise, he didn't recognise them as teachers. Didn't refuse. So he had certain, shall we say, established Victorian views about the nature of who's who and where's where. Rich and poor, and male and female, and that sort of stuff. He married twice. Can I give you a bit of a personal history of his... this is what fascinates me, the gossip and the background. He married twice. His first wife was to Eileen Page. Now, Eileen Page was the wife of his best friend. His best friend, and they worked together. They said they had an acting position. And some people say there was a little bit more than that. So rumours about Alexander and this threesome. When he died, he married her, and then they divorced. She wanted to go on the stage. Anyway, he then married again, wait for it, to the housekeeper of Elizabeth Page's sister. And if you can work that out, it's so complicated, but this is the nature of life back in those days, where you didn't stand alone. Nowadays, I look around and I can imagine that there will be people here in the Alexander family who possibly don't even know it. Because I sent a document to the great-granddaughter of Matthias Alexander, who lives in Hobart, still alive, she's 90 now. And she came back and said, this is one of the most fascinating documents I've had a look at in years. And there are people there I never knew were on the family tree and who I have worked with in the past and never knew they were family members. Because when you talk about family members, you talk about second, third, fourth cousins. You know, I'm sure we all are, but are there any famous names here? Watts? Are there any Watts here? Any Wattses? Any connection with the Watts? Of course you were there last time. Well, yes, of course you were. And I missed you. You escaped before I caught you. So, yeah, that's a famous name. It's the biggest name on the Alexander family tree after the Alexanders. And the Wattses were, they came over from England. The daughter of Joseph, who travelled as a free settler, while Joseph was in England, he had her while he was a free man. He then got convicted, sent over here, but she was a daughter of a free man at that time. So she came over as a free settler and met his third wife, who was 5 years younger than she was. That was a happy reunion. That was a very nice one. So, she married, and they set up the Watts family tree branch. And the two matriarch, the patriarch and the matriarch, are both at Flowerdale Cemetery still. And from that line, Wattses, Coopers. I look at the family, the Mackenzies, Dowlings. Dowling, big name from England. Any Dowlings here? No? I should have had the list. I could have pinpointed people. No, so he was a great man, did a great work, and did a great discovery. But yeah, he had a mixed life in terms of his social life, and what he did and didn't do. How many? He had one, but wasn't a very happy one. And Alexander tried to encourage him to take the technique. He didn't want to know, and was last heard of living on a barge in England on the canal. Two barges. One was full of rubbish, and one was where he lived. And the council just got rid of one of those barges, the rubbish, because he was a health risk. And there's a report on him in the paper, and he's sitting down. Oh, if ever a man needed some work on him, that man did. He was all over the place, he was. And he was the son of the man himself. But FM tried, FM being the name we call him, we're in the trade. So FM tried to make him with his work, but he didn't want to know. So, yeah. Any other questions before I... Yes. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah, in the King's speech, I can't remember the guy's name. What was the name of the speaker that King George V had lessons with? I can't remember his name. In the King's speech, the expert, it was Lionel. Yeah. The good thing was he was an Australian, and so was FM. That's good. Yeah. So this guy gave lessons to King George V about his speech and his stuttering, and this guy called Alexander the Master. So, and the same with, we heard Feldenkrais. That again, Feldenkrais had lessons with Alexander.
Sorry, just clarify that. So Matthias was asked to help with the King's speech. Is that by this other person? Is that what?
Sorry, Oh,
So Matthias Alexander was asked to help with the King's speech. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, he helped the teacher of the one that did King
Right,
George V.
helped the teacher, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's Lionel was his first name. I can't remember.
Lionel Logue.
Ah, there we are. So yeah, it's a famous background. That's good, which is right up Alexander Street. Any other question before we just get a few more little exercises? Well, I suppose I would say as an Alexander teacher, come off the back of the chair, let the back support itself if you can, unless there's a biological reason, an organic reason for you to have that. Yeah, okay. If you've got a bad back, then first and foremost, if you want to go to the Alexander technique, no point going there with a broken arm or a broken leg and saying, I want to do better with a broken leg. They'll tell you to go to the hospital to get the leg sorted out. There's no point. You need to get yourself as well as you can physically before you take on the work. Now, okay, it will help muscular issues, no question about that. If your problems are muscular, and a lot of people's are, then the technique will help. Simple as that. It's quite black and white. Muscular issues can be dealt with. Nervous issues, physical issues, you've got to get those sorted out first. Well, not so much nervous issues. I've worked with people who are, a little bit unsteady, should we say, mentally, and they found it's been great. They're very adaptive, very adaptive. You put your hands on and they move. It's quite amazing. As if they've got no interest in the habit that normally other people have. It's very interesting. Anyway, that's me. So what I want to do now is, if there are pairs here, would you want to work in pairs? I mean, I'm not asking strangers to put their hands on another stranger. I'm not asking you to do that. But if there are people who are prepared to work as a pair, it'd be interesting to see. I'd like to see. Well, is there a pair that would prepare to work together? Yeah. Okay. Can I get you to work? Can I demonstrate from the front what I'm looking at? Yeah? Okay. So who's your pair? Okay. I'd like to come forward, please. Thank you very much. Right. Okay. I want you to just adopt an Alexander position teacher. So this is an Alexander position teacher. This is me, the hands on the back. Now I can't do that, so I'll get you to do it. So if you put here. Now, stand on the side here, just at the side, and think about the directions, and bring your hand up to put your hand on the back. None of this sort of. It's a case of, can I just release the arm? Just release the arm, release the arm, and just put your hand on the back. And keep it there and think about taking it off. Just lightly, lightly, lightly. How does that feel? Good. It's good. Yeah. Okay. So, but as soon as you put pressure on, do you feel pressure on the hand there? Yeah. Okay. So it's a question. Less, 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 less. It's not about doing something with the hand. It's assisting the back to do what it needs to do. You're just giving it a bit of support while the back does it. And, sorry, your name? Jeannie. Jeannie is thinking about the directions, of course, aren't we all? And so is Kathy. Yes, yeah. The idea is to just be that support, okay? Now I'm going to ask you to let your hand go, just release the arm. And then can I move your hair? No, could you move the hair? Just move the hair. Okay, great. And then put the hand just there. But to do it, it's that. Really, half the point, it's not about putting your hand on. Half of it is how you're putting the hand on. So think about releasing and softening and softening. Full contact, thumb as well. That's it. And think, can I release the shoulder? release the arm, the elbow, the joint? Can I do less? Can I think about how I'm standing on the floor? Think about the neck being free and the head to come forward and up. Back lengthening. You look great. How's that feel? Does it feel soft?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It actually made my arms feel floppier.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. It does encourage the nerves just to let go a bit and the muscles just to let go a bit. Just that hand on the back. So this is what I was going to ask people to do. And now, if you want to return the favour. Yeah. But try, yeah, yeah. Just put your hand on me. Less. Just keep it there, but think about taking it off. Lovely. And put your hand down again, and again you're thinking about the neck being free. You don't just. You just got to but do it from the back. So we do here first. So. This is what we call end gaining. Ready. So the idea is, can I just stop for a moment, think about, and try and position yourself at 90 degrees to the side. That's it. Okay. So can I think about the neck being free, and the head to come forward and up, back lengthening, shoulders widening. So soften. Think about the directions. Half of this is you working on yourself, not what you're doing with Jeannie. It's about what you're doing yourself. So think about the directions, bring your hands soft onto the back, to where Jeannie had her hand. Just contact. When you make contact, think, can I lessen that? I'm not there to hold her. I'm just there to let her know I'm here. Does that feel soft? Okay. But it's very difficult to not be straight when you're doing this. It's marvellous work.
I feel like I need to put another hand here.
Okay. No, that's within the rules. That's within the rules. Yeah, that's the thing, is ask permission. That's the important thing, is to ask permission. So soften all the time. Can I do it with less? Keep contact, because you're keeping the contact. You think about your shoulders releasing. Paint is drying well, isn't it?
It is. It's very curious.
It is, but you can do serious stuff. Smiling, that's all right. But that's what you need. Thank you very much. I have to stop talking. Yeah, so, no, it's, thank you for a reminder. Okay, well, is there any questions that I can attempt to answer? Have I confused anybody? No. Oh, wait for it.
Sorry, yeah, thank you. Something a lot of us do. Crossing your legs for extended periods of time, is that detrimental?
Well, there's a classic picture in the book there of Alexander reading the paper, sitting on a ledge with his legs crossed. I look at it, I think, gosh, he's going to fall over, isn't he? But he looks absolutely rock solid. So crossing your legs, not necessarily a good thing physically. It mucks about the blood supply. Yeah. Yeah. But you see that, I mean, particularly with blokes, so you go in the cafe. This restless foot that blokes have. They sit down and all the time. And that includes me, I'm afraid, sometimes. Yeah. So, yeah, avoid obvious tensions, like crossing your legs, holding this. This was rewarded in my school, when I was at school. Sit up straight. The whole thing about it was just a bundle of tension. There's nothing to it. So, yeah, avoid tension, look for tone, and apply the principles. That's about it. And it's that simple and that difficult. Oh.